All right, so here's an interesting and really quick technique when you want to add that kind of tattered, aged paper look edges to your photos to give them kind of a vintage look about them. Now, all you really need is a good texture image of a tattered, aged paper effect, and then the photos you want to apply it to. And there's two ways you want to be able to apply it. And it's going to depend on whether the image is dark or light, and we're going to take a look at both scenarios, but it's a really quick fix to go either way. So here I have the texture that I want to use. Now, this paper texture and the edges look really nice and aged and really kind of tattered up, but I don't need the wood texture here. So I'm going to go ahead and crop this image in to just the paper area. So I'm just going to go ahead and move my crop tool here. And this goes back to what I was talking about. When you're looking for textures, don't look for the specific texture itself. I mean, if you find an image of a specific texture you're looking for, great. But if it ends up being part of a bigger image or just a small part of an image, then most stock images are going to come pretty high res, so you can actually extract those certain elements in there and get what you're looking for. So just be on the lookout when you're looking at stock images and such, not just the whole image, the image as a whole, but also the different various parts of it. So I've cropped my paper texture in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the color because all I'm interested in here is the texture. And so I don't really need the color information because I can add that back in later if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a real quick desaturate here by pressing Shift-Command-U, and that leaves me the texture in black and white. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a levels adjustment here and make the inside area just a little bit brighter, but not too bright, because if I go too bright, you'll see it just it forces it to bright white, and we have no detail. I do want to maintain a little bit of that texture of the paper in there a little bit, but just make it a little bit brighter. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. All right, so now we're ready to apply it to our images. Now, as I said, I want to show you two different scenarios when applying this, because if I showed you one way on a dark image, let's say, you'd wonder, well, my image is bright, it doesn't look the same. So I thought I would go ahead and show you both scenarios in the event you have one or the other. So let's start with a lighter image. So I've got this image of this bride here. It's a pretty cool shot, and it's lit very well. Let's go ahead and apply this texture to that. So I'm going to go ahead and take it and just drag and drop it over. I'm just going to hold down my Shift key. And then let's go ahead and scale it. I'm going to go ahead and scale it disproportionately. It is a texture, so I'm not going to be too concerned with loss of quality. Plus, we're not scaling it that big anyway. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger there. There we go. So now that's covering the entire image. Now, all you have to do at this point is simply change the blend mode. Now, most times it's going to be multiply when it's a lighter image like this, but feel free to try other ones. So if I just change it to multiply, you can immediately see the effect looks pretty good. That texture's blending. It looks like it's a nice age kind of vintage photo, and you'd pretty much be done. But go ahead and try other blend modes if you'd like, just to see what kind of various effects you get. Linear burn I like because it tends to show a little bit more of the contrast of detail on the texture. Versus multiply, you can see it dies down a little bit here, especially in the lower areas there. And again, if you stumble on a blend mode you like and it still seems a little too intense, just remember, we've got the element on its own layer. So you just drop the layer opacity down a little bit. Because in fact, I like linear burn, but it seems too intense. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at around 90. And that looks pretty good. Now, if you wanted to add that little bit of extra to really kind of make the paper look aged a little bit, you can have that layer selected and just press Command or Control U to bring up the hue saturation, and then check on colorize, and then just add a little bit of yellowing to the paper. Not too overbearing. You want to make it rather subtle, but that just adds a little something to the paper and just gives it that little bit more of an aged look to it. So pretty cool result there. And that's on a lighter image with a light background. So let's say you had an image that had a darker background. So I'm going to bring it back my texture, my original texture, and I've got this photo of this kind of gangster fellow here. Maybe I wanted to make this look like a photo that was from the time, like a 30s gangster style. So I'm going to go ahead and take, just like before, I'm going to drag and drop this over, and let's go ahead and minimize this photo here. And once again, let's go ahead and scale this to fit in the image here. It's snapping to the edge, so there we go, have that. Now, again, if I went and changed this to multiply like I did before, the effect is pretty much lost because it's already on a dark background. And if we're only showing the darker areas on a dark background, you pretty much get the result you get. But all you got to do is really change this to screen instead, and then just invert the image. So quick as that. So again, just instead of multiply, when you're on a dark image, instead of multiply, you're going to set your blend mode to screen and then invert the image. I'm just going to pressing Command or Control I, and that inverts the effect, and there you have the effect appearing much clearer on a dark background. And again, like before, you can go and add that color effect if I wanted to add a little yellowing to the paper. Not so much there. There we go. And then there I have that vintage effect quickly and easily just by blending those layers. So again, I'll bring up both examples here. Same texture, just merely different blending modes depending on the nature of the image, whether it's light or dark. Just remember, if you've got a lighter image, you're going to use the multiply mode. If you've got a darker image, you're going to use that screen mode, but invert the values of the texture itself, and then you'll get what you're looking for.